Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
The child is a wizard because Heath the Knight Rider's creation is now real. The vehicles converse, park themselves, the vehicles will operate on their own. Will they do anything you ask of them for them to perform? Additionally, most likely over the following 10 years, you will be capable of going outdoors. The rider of the night cars are only $1 apiece. However, there was odd regulation. Each vehicle required to be demolished following the performance. No one, except for Hasselhoff, no one knew why. In the meantime, he was battling inner demons as well. His addiction began throughout these years. It became really horrible for his own daughter, later recorded him on the floor while intoxicated. The show appeared flawless on television, but was breaking down backstage. For 40 years, these secrets were guarded by Hasselhoff. He's now revealing the entire depressing tale at last. On July 17th, David Hasselhoff was born, Baltimore, Maryland, 1952. His relatives was a loving but strict Roman Catholic. Joseph, his father, was a businessman, executive. Dolores, his mother, remained house and brought up the children. David was the 4 sisters and an only boy. His origins were from Germany. His great-great-grandmother originated in a town close to Bremen in 1865. That association with Germany would imply nothing when he was younger. However, it would later make him a national hero abroad. His early years were anything but steady. The family was always on the go, due to his father's employment with Brink Safety. Baltimore first, then Florida's Jacksonville, followed by Atlanta, Illinois follows. David didn't remain for long, enough to make you feel comfortable. He was timid, always adjusting, always the new kid. Yet each time he had to begin anew, he improved one's ability to communicate. He learned how to perform and blend in. That's probably what inspired him to become a performer. Finally, on stage, he might be someone who remained in one location. It happened when he was only 7 years old. Was chosen for a local Peter production, playing a member of the crew on Captain Hook's vessel. The bashful boy became animated on stage. He didn't feel anxious. He was unencumbered. Everything changed because of that one position. He became enamored with theater. From that in summary, he studied acting, singing, and classes in dancing. He shared with everyone his Broadway was the only dream. And decades. He did eventually go back to Peter Pan, this time spent in theaters as Captain Hook himself in the United Kingdom between 2010 and 2017. When the family eventually made their home, David, from LaGrange, Illinois, was a teenager. He went to Lyons Township. He pushed himself into high school. Everything. He wasn't your average pupil. He was the choir leader. He was the captain. The squad that plays volleyball. He participated in the speaking team. He starred in plays in school. He even took center stage in the Fantastics. When he received his diploma in 1970, he had most performers have already constructed a toolset chase for years. Self-assurance, charm, physique, and presence. Following high school, he attempted Michigan's Oakland University. However, shortly, he moved to California. Walt Disney Institute of the Arts, Disney was established in 1961. His relocation led him to California, exactly where he was supposed to be. At CalArts, he developed the ability to manage his speak, take charge of the stage, and cross among dance, acting, and music. Inside. After graduating, he received his first significant break. That rupture occurred in the most surprising manner. Desperate to acquire his screen actors in 1974 using his guild card, he consented to appear in the low-budget film Revenge of the Cheerleaders. The name of his character, Boner. He believed no one would notice. However, the movie came out 2 years later, caught with the alternative title. They're down. It was humiliating. However, it earned him his SAG card. He was formerly a working actor. Then arrived the soap opera. He was awarded the William Snapper Foster Jr.'s part on The Restless and the Young. He remained 6 years on the show, filming more than 850 episodes. He had a serious demeanor, accountable, the head of the household. Admirers cherished him. And when he made the decision to depart, the show's creator in 1982 didn't just. He phased out the entire process of writing him out. Foster household. His size was that large. Become. Later on, the true game changer arrived that year. Brandon, the president of NBC, he was specially selected by Tartikoff to appear in Rider of the Night. Something caught Tartikoff's eye. Others didn't, a combination of generosity and power. The program that linked David with featuring KITT, a talking automobile, turned into a global acclaim. It wasn't only take action. The goal was to save lives, not taking them. Additionally, that picture of the tech-savvy, clean-cut hero stranded. It produced David, an American celebrity, and shortly after a legend in Germany. However, prior to Knight, there was an odd detour writer. And he starred in Star Crash in 1979, and the Italian sci-fi film B is attempting to make money on Star Wars. David portrayed a royal who delivers lines while wearing bright armor. Example, "Papa, 3 minutes is enough," was absurd, but he did his best. Despite the film's failure, it demonstrated that he was ready to take chances. Hasselhoff, David wasn't merely a Knight Rider actor. He was experiencing it. However, a long time before he got into the driver's seat of KITT 1. The man had a wild notion. Larson, Glenn A. desired to combine a cowboy tale with a high-tech vehicle. Michael Knight, he said, had similarities to the Lone Ranger, but instead, he had a talking Trans Am and a horse. NBC thought the concept was fantastic. Their head of state, Brandon Tartikoff, has voiced his displeasure there. There weren't enough talented men performing. Thus, what if the car was the, Larson asked, didn't star? In September, the show debuted on TV, began on April 26, 1982, and ended on April 4, 1986. It had the support of Flag, the Law, and Government Foundation, Affini organization that secretly sent night missions. Larson has already achieved significant success. Programs such as Battlestar and Magnum PY Galactica. Nonetheless, Knight Rider emerged as one of his best songs. The moment was a deal. The Carib-crazy crowd of the 1980s was unable to stop it, but behind the scenes, it wasn't simple to build KITT. The 1982 Pontiac Trans Ams were challenging to obtain. The team had just one at beginning. Michael Sheffy, the designer, included it into the KITT first, and later they received Fortunate. A train accident destroyed a delivery of new Trans Ams. GM, they were unable to sell them, so they gave 10 of them to the performance for only $1 apiece. The capture, it was necessary to eliminate every vehicle. When the filming had over, fans continued to call that sacrilege. Every kit was modified to fit a distinct role. Some were constructed only for fiberglass-bodied stunts for leaps in light. Some had drivers who were hidden in the rear seat. The hero vehicle was justiced for shots and close-ups with Hasselhoff. Each vehicle costs around, to change, it will cost $18,000. By the third season, they made KITT look better. Wings, spoilers, and a scoop to distinguish the thousands of duplicates created by fans that began to appear on the screen. KITT was a marvel. Its shell was capable of endure explosions, gunshots, and even heat of 800 degrees. It might leap 40 feet in the turbocharged air and accelerate from 8.2 seconds from 0 to 60. The Scarlet, the hood's scanner light, is known as the Yi. Its eye was an anamorphic equalizer. HL from 2001 served the inspiration for A Space Odyssey. It could see a monitor and an X-ray. Vital indicators of Michael, and even Enter for Stealth use silent mode. And years, real automakers eventually caught up. The Ford Extra seats for cardiac monitoring. Collisions avoidance techniques were made commonplace in trucks from Europe by 2015, but it seemed like science at the time. Fiction. According to reports, KITT was valued $11.4 million. Actually, every build cost near $100,000. However, none of that was important to admirers. Children desired the toys. Teens desired the vehicle. Parents desired to observe with their children. It was unpopular with critics. TV Guide awarded it 21%. Rotten Tomatoes, 5%. Audiences, nevertheless, made it popular. By in 1983, KITT toys were the most popular holiday present. The reviews were irrelevant. Stated. Knight Rider turned into a popular culture-seismic activity. In 1986, when the program concluded, although it seemed abrupt, the mythology never truly came to a halt. It was broadcast in numerous nations. The film was rebroadcast and loved. NBC attempted to reinstate it. 2008, however, it failed. What they failed to notice made the first one unique, and nobody Hasselhoff didn't feel that as strongly. For him, Knight Rider was more than a job. He declared that he will live out the rest of his, if he could, he would be inside that show. Fans frequently approached him and said, "You assisted me," during a difficult period. That meant more to him above all of Baywatch's notoriety, because, according to him, Knight Rider was about providing people hope and saving lives. He referred to it as his most proud role. Perhaps David Hasselhoff looked like the ideal on-screen action hero. However, when operating Knight Rider, it was anything but easy. The audience was unaware of how intricate, risky, and occasionally devastating. Reality. The show was behind the scenes. The automobiles were where it all began. At night, the rider used more than one kit. It made use of power. The hero automobile was there, completely filled with speech and flickering light panels, and a refined appearance for close-ups. Then the stunt cars arrived, designed to withstand sharp turns and pursuits, situations even though their internal organs were mostly undressed. He published 4 compilations in 1995. Records. He had an absurd work schedule, but it preserved his reputation in both worlds. American television icon, European music sensation. Early on, David Hasselhoff almost drank in 2002. Himself to death. Was plummeting. Split up when he entered the Betty, California's Ford Center. Afterwards, he made a terrifying admission in 2011. He declared that his blood alcohol content was the highest the clinic has ever documented. Physicians advised him to have been deceased. He was telling the truth. They possessed, I have never seen somebody make it this far. According to Hasselhoff, it wasn't for fame or pay attention. He wasn't using the traditional Hollywood's check-in rehab game, keep your picture. He went, since he had no option. His body was disintegrating. Notoriety, stress, and years of intense. He had finally succumbed to his drinking. However, this was not the start of his demise. In 2001, he attempted to obtain a cyst. He spent 8 days in treatment, then got a cab and ran away. He didn't return home. He had a drink. He was unconscious at the end of the night in AA hospital bed. It was his first actual reminder. He checked himself again, into treatment shortly after, and in public acknowledged that he had a problem. However, addiction doesn't disappear that effortlessly. Then May 3rd arrived, 2007. Taylor, his 16-year-old daughter Anne, took a note that would torment him indefinitely. Lying without a shirt on the floor of a hotel room in Las Vegas, Hasselhoff was inebriated enough to hardly consume a cheeseburger. The footage was tragic. not due to the way he investigated, but due to what his daughter stated. She could be heard begging, "You assure me that you won't get alcohol tonight?" All okay. She wasn't being harsh. She was in a difficult situation. Later, she stated, to demonstrate to him what he was, she recorded it, such as when intoxicated, since he never recall. More than 1 billion individuals eventually came across that video. It turned into one of the initial instances of viral content, the online. Additionally, it was the first for many the moment they realized how far he had fallen. That, in the same year, things got worse. In July 2006, amid his unattractive separation from Hasselhoff, and Pamela Bach generated a commotion at Heathrow Airport. He was scheduled to take a flight to Los Angeles at Angeles, but he didn't arrive. Observers claimed he smelled like alcohol, was staggering, and was unable to stand. Airline employees wouldn't let him fly. He said he was distressed by the divorce. His IA spokesperson said he blamed antibiotics, choose to fly at a later time. However, there was harm. His separation was concluded in Los Angeles that same day. The entire globe was now observing. The legal case wasn't the end of the divorce. It poured into the news stories. In-court records from August 2006 that were intended to remain confidential were inadvertently released. The specifics were explosive. Bach was charged by Hasselhoff with cocaine. Bach charged him with mistreatment, well as cheating. It was unsightly and caused everything is worse. The general public wasn't only recognizing him as a struggling star. They were witnessing his darkest moments. Like a soap drama, life unfolds. Additionally, the divorce became a bitter dispute about custody. Initially, every parent received one daughter. Taylor Ann remained with Haley, and her mother stayed with her father. That was short-lived. Pamela Bach submitted an application for an order of restraining, asserting Hasselhoff had been aggressive. The court rejected it, but advised them to avoid one another. After several months, the court granted Hasselhoff is in complete control of both daughters. He used this years later fact to support a lower alimony amount payments, which decreased from $21,000 to $10,000 per month. In spite of all the suffering, Hasselhoff began to see things clearly. By 2010, things had changed. He halted, evading his past, and burst out laughing at it. In his roast on Comedy Central, he even made light of the notorious Burger.video. He revealed the roast to interviewers was healing. He didn't take pride in his past, but at last he had the strength to discuss it. It need gods to bring him to the brink of death, angels only to get him to quit. The spiritual, he was able to confront the truth after awakening. He had almost ruined himself. Additionally, he attempted to re-establish his romantic life. His Catherine. Hicklin's first marriage had lasted for 5 years, from 1984 to 1989. Their nuptials had even been reproduced in a Knight Rider episode. He met Pamela months after the divorce. Bach. She had made an appearance in a show called The Show, but at that time, nothing occurred. Later, they met up again in a nightclub and married in 1989. Taylor Ann was one of their 2 daughters, 1990, and Haley in 1992. The marriage ended after 16 years, in disarray. Hasselhoff never went out. For some time in public, but in 2011, he began dating Welsh woman Haley Roberts. He met this woman while filming Britain's Got Talent Ability. After 7 years of dating, they got married in Italy in 2018. They went to the Maldives for a honeymoon. However, at the very moment when all appeared to be peaceful, another tragedy struck. March 5th, Pamela Bach was discovered dead in 2025 at the age of 62. According to reports, she passed away by suicide. After family, police were summoned. She was unreachable by members. The news startled the film industry. Hasselhoff published a brief request for privacy. The pair had experienced one of the most nasty divorces in the history of celebrities, yet old wounds were reopened by her death. Their daughters in their 30s were left behind to cope with the sadness. January, David Hasselhoff made a statement. In 2021, fans' perceptions of Knight Rider were altered by that. It was sold for about 40 years as a science fiction adventure concerning a high-tech talking vehicle. However, Hasselhoff failed to notice that manner. Talking isn't the point. Car, he said, it concerns the Michael and KITT's relationship, and the motion is very important, as well as one man has the power to change things. That particular one, everything, was turned upside down by a comment. The initial marketing that highlighted the amazing devices, turbo boost, self-driving mode, the bulletproof shell. However, to Hasselhoff, the genuine connection was always the emotional one. Narrative. During his conversation with Kelly Clarkson, he doubled down in June 2021. Following 36 for 40 years, everything has been precisely as we created in the past. He stated, the vehicles converse and move. They park themselves. He wasn't, the technology no longer impresses. To him, that was outdated information. What was important was the human-machine interaction. That change from machine to meaning was, the fans had missed it. However, Hasselhoff didn't. In the background, he also made a startling admission. Acting wasn't the main focus of the show, not for him anyway. In 2021, he made public, he relied more on his driving skills, abilities beyond his acting. I became really good at driving because I wanted to. He said the opposite. I could instruct you that within 5 minutes. In the past, there was no CGI. It was all real, risky. We did everything using our pants' seam. My favorite trick is spraying. WD-40, he remarked, howling, spinning out and on the tires through sequences without retaking any shots. They would shout, "Action! Good night! Rider!" and I would simply leave. Hoo-hoo, he chuckled. You were compensated for that. Is it not unbelievable? That raw excitement served to conceal his feelings of instances of poor acting. However, it was successful. Supporters recall the velocity, the screams. Hasselhoff ensured that the stunts appeared to be enjoyable, and it was. However, the enjoyment did not endure indefinitely. Hasselhoff had been engaged in combat since 2013. 2. Revive Knight Rider. He possessed the rights for almost 10 years, but no shifted. He said, I couldn't get a bite. In that case, screenwriter TJA devoted Knight Rider fan Fixman joined the work. By the beginning of 2021, Hasselhoff claimed he had a personal interest in their start. Whether or not I'm in it, I don't know, he said. The misunderstanding didn't end there. James and other directors Juan and James Gunn even discussed accepting the project. Later, Gunn tweeted that he and Hasselhoff spoke frequently regarding carrying up the series in a contemporary. The timing was never right, but the setting was. Years went by. May 2025 will see the revival. Was still in the inferno of development. Hasselhoff continued to wait, still wishing, but he was sure about one thing. If it returned, it must have felt like the first one. Not only the action, but the vehicle alone, but the heart, the bond, the notion that one man and, in fact, a single machine might create a distinction.